This scalping strategy will make you so much money every day. It's ridiculous. This is the way that I trade the market every single day. And so I'm going to go through the trades, show you how it's done. This is a scalping strategy on the 2000 tick ES chart. And what you're doing here is you're really only scalping 4 ticks and then leaving runners. So let's go through it. Every one of these arrows will show you the trades, and I'm going to zoom out. So we basically had a big range day. And there's a trend that's within it, and there's a reason that I have a double trend channel here that I'm going to show you when we get over to that area. But for now, I just want to kind of show you there was sort of a possible 2 different ways to draw that. So when we came in this morning, we had some data, some news, and then there was a downtrend after, a break, and a new low. And then we had this range working. So early on, there wasn't really any good trade setups here. This short was a kind of a possibility, but it was just a first entry, so it was risky, so I didn't take it. And then you already make a new low, so you can't take this lower high, even though it's a nice looking candle. And it wouldn't have been a great trade anyway. So it goes sideways for a while. It was a really weird open. And then finally, after the open, you get this trade here. So this one is basically off this high, you have a first entry, second entry. It's a hidden second entry long off of the lows of the range. You could also argue that there's a triple test in here. If you kind of draw it like this, it's kind of a stretch, but it basically is a triple test. If you draw this line off of those closes, you could say that the range was actually off of this close and that this is a failed breakout. And so it does work. It's a close back with inside the range, because at the time I think I did have this range drawn more like this, where that line is. Delete that. Like this. And I think that this is still valid. So it just works as like basically a triple test, range lows, kind of a hidden second entry. Then right after that, you get a first entry, second entry short right off the top of the range. It's also lower than this previous high, and it is a triple test off the top of the range. Really low risk bar. It's only 6 ticks. So nice short there. This one gives you a runner. So that one's really nice. This one over here did not give you a runner because it came back and stopped it out, unless you took some profit up here. But I think when I was trading it, I took profit around the midline or something like that, because I wasn't expecting this one. With how sideways that was, I was kind of like, yeah, probably not. This one was a nice runner. Then it comes down, it breaks through the bottom of the range, and it comes back over here. Now, I marked this one just because of how bearish this is. You could kind of look at this as a close outside, and we're expecting a new low here. It's only a first entry, so it's definitely aggressive. But the reason I liked it was if you drag this over, you could kind of see, even if the range was lower, it's kind of a rejection of the range. So there is a reason to like that. It's almost like a breakout pullback short. So you could take it for that reason. Even though it's just a first entry, it is a breakout pullback short if you were playing the range off of that low. And again, that low is fine to play it off of, because this was a perfect bounce from it before. So that's why I had that, wanted to show that there. And you basically go short 1 tick below that bar, boom, easy. And then, and again, that's only a 9-tick candle. It's not that big of a risk. It then tries to break back into the range, and then it fails back out and creates this downtrend. Now, you do get a close outside right here and a new low, so that plays out pretty quickly. Unfortunately, there's just no trade in there. But right after you make the close outside and the new low, you get a nice higher low right here, and that was a nice trade. And this one, depending on how you got in, if you entered on a stop order, let me see. So I think I remember this one. If it filled you up here, then you probably don't get a runner on this, because it does come back on this red candle. So it depended on how you entered this one. If you entered on a limit order back here and got filled, then you would have got a runner. But I don't believe that you actually get a runner on that one, unfortunately. You just get a scalp, even though it takes off. So some people might have got a runner. It just depends. Then you come out, you close, you get a lower high here. It comes back in and kind of creates this range. Now this one is a green. It's a kind of a more risky trade. And what you have here is a first entry, second entry long that pulls back and then goes higher. So this equal low to this low is kind of like a higher low on a second entry long. That's how you play that one. And basically there, you're kind of just looking at it as just trying to get back to the top of this range. You're expecting a new high on this trend here. It ends up not doing that, though. It just, the range wins over and it stays in the range. I didn't mark this one as a possible short because at this point, you wouldn't have really known that that's the range high. But over here, you do know that that's the range high. So I do mark it here. I marked this one green because I actually took this trade in real time. And it gives you your 4 ticks, but then it reverses. So if you didn't get filled, that's why the bar was just a little bit bigger than I had hoped for. And at this point, you don't have a lot of room to the lows. It does work for a scalp, and I did get filled on my order there. But depending on how you played it, that one could have got you burned. So this is one of those ones where when you're being more aggressive, you have to be careful. It is a triple test. There are reasons to like it. However, it's a little bit higher than that high, and the candle's a little bit big. So there's a couple of reasons not to take that one. You're just kind of right at the midline. You would have preferred if it was more of a candle that looked like this one, smaller bar. I didn't talk about this one yet, but basically this one. So after this second entry played out, you then have a new high here, and you count a first entry, second entry long, right off of the bottom of this. Sorry, that moved a little bit on me. Right off the bottom of this, you could kind of argue that it's a 1-2 triple test, but it is lower, so I don't love that. However, it's just a bullish bar, failing to break out of the range. And at the time of the range, you probably would have had it drawn like this off of these closes. And so then it becomes a really nice trade because it's a failed breakout and it closes right at the range to get back in. So you're expecting a run back to the highs. It doesn't really give you too much of a runner. I think that I would have taken profit somewhere up here. I would have I took profit and then moved the stop, and then I would just move my stop up and trailed it a bit just because of how sideways it was getting in this range. You don't really look for runners in ranges. You look for more, just take profit on the runner at a lower level. You don't look for it to go crazy on you. All right, breaks out the top, fails, comes back in, and basically what you get here is it tries to come back into the range and then breaks out of that, and it just becomes this crazy volatile sort of aggressive moves that don't give you new lows or new highs on these and just goes back into another range. And that's why this is a range day. Now from here is where I started to draw these other trend lines. And we'll go through those soon, but I want to show you some of these trades because there were some really nice trades in here. So now you have a new range working. And basically, earlier on in the range, you would have had it drawn like this, off of this high. And so what this looks like to me, and you would have had the lows a little higher, it was looking more like this. So this just looks like one of those failed breakouts. It's kind of like a triple test. Off of these, it's basically matching these highs right here. So you could definitely take that short. It's a little aggressive because it's higher than these ones, but it works. And then from there, you get a first entry, second entry long that basically traps everybody because it's an engulfing bar, so it breaks lower and then it closes higher. So this is a really nice one. I loved that trade, and eventually I did move this down to here. After these closes, I moved that down, and I also moved this range up to these closes when this moved up. So right after this happens, there's a possible short here. Now, again, this is a little bit aggressive, but you could have seen it because at the time, again, it looks like a failed breakout and it closes right back at the range. It almost looks identical to that one I showed earlier over here when I had this drawn higher, where it closes right back at the range. So if you took that, it does work. I believe I did take that one in real time, and I talked about it in Discord. Okay. So you get back in, get a nice scalp out of it, and even if you don't, and you don't get a runner again because it's a range, then here you get this lower high right off the top of this. So at this point, you definitely have a triple test there, and so that's a nice little one. This one, even though it doesn't, I think the low 1325. Yeah, so this one, it doesn't fill you right here, but it doesn't matter because it fills you on this next move. And if you weren't already in, you could enter on this one because it basically comes up and does another lower high right off the top of the range. Really bearish bar, even below the EMA, and that one just takes off. So if you're already sitting in this trade, it fills you there, and you do get a runner on that one, and you could exit at the range lows, which is where you'd expect to bounce, and that's exactly where it bounces at this low. That's where I would have been looking for an exit. And so then you have now you can draw these trend lines. And basically what happens is you have these big up channels working. And so after this, when it just rejects and breaks out of the top of the range there, you have to think, okay, we have a bullish bias. I mean, it's really obvious if you just scroll out. After we made this low, we've basically been making higher highs and higher lows on the way up. It's not a super strong trend, but there's a bullish imbalance in this range. There's a bullish bias. So you're thinking longs here now, especially after we break out of the top of the range and we don't go lower there. I'm thinking, okay, let's see what we got. And so what we get here is from the low, you do get a first entry, second entry short that fails. So this is just a trap. That's all this is. It's basically a first entry, second entry short. And then when it breaks above this bar, it's a failure. And so you could actually have a stop order one tick above this bar if you were trading the failed second entry short. And it's what you're looking at this as is a breakout and pullback to the range. So it's kind of like a breakout pullback long on a failed second entry short. It's a trap basically, and it does work. And you can see that it's a trap because it goes up and immediately reverses. It's not like it doesn't take off. It just stops everyone out and they all have to exit. But they were all still trying to short the market. And so what I like here is just this one is now basically 1-2 triple test of this level after it became support. So after we broke out of this successfully, it then became support on a triple test right there. And so I like that one. It's also a hidden second entry long. More advanced, but definitely a pretty nice and safe trade. And I like that one. You got room to this high. And this high was just marking off the high from right here, which was from 608. I just had that as a level, as a possible rejection level. And so you have room to get out there if you need to, but you end up catching a runner on this one, and it runs up. Then you have this channel that has been working. It eventually breaks out here, and it then comes down to the lows of this channel, and it confirms your trend line. There's no real trade here. It just kind of breaks out, makes a new low, but you don't get any good signal bars to take any trades. So you just have to sit patiently and wait. And then eventually you have this up channel working, and all that you get here, this is a really simple one. You just get a pullback first entry long, higher low that's also a second entry long, and you got room to the highs. This one I did take in real time, and I was almost like, oh, did I get trapped? Because it came all the way down. My stop loss is always one tick below my signal bar, and it got within one tick of that. It got an equal low there, and then it went where I thought. So I thought I got stuck in congestion here, and I was a little bit annoyed at myself for a second, but that's why I marked it as aggressive, because it didn't really play out exactly like I thought it was going to. And again, this one, I was hoping this would have pulled back a little further and then rejected for the second entry. So it's just a little high. It barely touched the EMA, but there is a trend line working here that it does confirm. But again, it almost shook me out. I had to just sit there and watch it come all the way against me. And again, that's an 8-tick bar. So that would have been, I had a 10-tick stop loss because I entered one tick above this bar. So I would have taken a 10-tick loss on that one on my whole position. But it ended up working out. And then I got my 4 ticks here and I actually get a runner. So that one was really sweet because what turned out to look like it was going to be sketchy actually became a runner trade. Runs all the way up. And this one is marked green because it's still within this up channel. But the reason I marked it is just at the time this range high was marked lower. It was basically right here at those highs. And so what this looks like to me is we come out, break back in, come up, and it just looks like a big failure. So if you want to be aggressive, this is the place to do it. It's only 6 ticks. You're really far from the EMA. It just looks like it's probably going to come back. You're better off to wait for a higher or a lower high, but you don't get it. It just takes off. So if you got that one, you do catch a runner. Sometimes it's worth being aggressive there, but you got to know that it's risky. Then it comes down. You get a first entry, second entry long, but it's just not a good signal bar, and it triggers, at this candle, just not a good setup. So you have to just wait a second. And then what it does is it actually comes down, and this becomes a 1-2 second entry short that fails. And basically it's a higher low on the second entry long. That's also a failed second entry short. So the way I played this one was actually put my order one tick above this bar and played the failed second entry short. So basically when this came down, if it comes on the other side of this by one tick, everyone that went short gets stopped out, and then it usually takes off. Now, it ends up not playing out the way I thought. It actually just fills me here, comes down a little bit, and then it comes up, because most people's stop losses were actually where this swing was. So that's all that was. So once it got there, it pretty much goes up. So it's a safe trade, in my opinion, because it is also a higher low after a second entry. All right, so then it comes over. Eventually, you start moving this up because now we have different stuff going on. So I think at some point I moved it there, and then eventually later I moved it up a little higher. I'm just gonna put it back. I think I had it like right there, maybe. Oh wait, no. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it back to the spot where it actually goes. It actually goes here. Okay. So what you end up getting after this is up here, you get a little downtrend, a break, and then it comes down. And what I like here is just a pullback, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. And I was waiting for this one. I was sitting patiently waiting for this because it's right off of this trend line that's right here. So this was a nice spot where I had that trend line. It's right off the trend line. It's an easy scalp. I thought it was going to go up and test this, but it didn't do it. So you just get a scalp out of it, but nice, easy trade. And then comes over here. And at this point, it does break out of this first trend line. And the reason I have this second one was I was thinking from down here, this one fits pretty decent against that. And you do get a nice bounce right there. So I think that trend line was possibly in play. And so I was thinking originally we might get a setup off of it. We don't get one. And we just come up and we can't tap these highs on the day. And I drew this blue line as a possible area for where the range high might have been, but it didn't even test it. It just double topped one tick below it and reversed. So then you get a down here, close outside, new low, and then you get this kind of really bearish movement. And so now it actually looks like this whole thing is just turning into a big bear trend. So that's actually pretty wild that the volume seems to be picking back up a bit. See if we have any sort of... it's not really a great fitting trend line. That just doesn't fit very well there. You don't really have any confirmation off the highs. So what you could do here is draw off of this level and possibly... possible the trend line comes off of here. Let's see if it fits. It just doesn't really fit that well, to be honest. I mean, it kind of fits here, I guess. You can kind of draw it like that. That's a possibility. It does have more touches that way. It's pretty steep, though. So it's really hard to say for sure. Let's widen out this range because we are coming right up to the midline now. So we'll widen that out. Basically like that. There's just a lot of trades, so this video took a little longer than the others. But you can see that we're probably going to at least bounce around this midline. You can see this midline throughout the day has been kind of a sticking point. We're just coming back between yesterday's close and then today's open. So not a whole lot going on. We could come down to the range lows here. It's hard to say, but it's just going to end up finishing as probably a range day. The daily candle is probably going to look like a doji. So not too much else going on here. I don't really love this channel that I drew, this wider version. It just doesn't really fit that well. I mean, it could be off of these lows, but I just don't feel like, this midline is, I guess, the midline is kind of in effect. So it might be possible. Usually what I do when I have these style, I'll draw the steeper version and I'll keep the wider one on until I know for sure what's really in play. For now, what I would do is I'll play the steeper version, but I'll keep awareness that this wider version could be in play. That's how I do this. And then once I have another confirmation, because I like to have 3 taps on the high side of this downtrend, and we don't have that. So you can't say for sure that this is in play. But you can say that this steeper one is definitely in play. So now it looks like we got a first entry short, and we're about to get a second entry short, but you can't go short into the lows like that. But it looks like it's just going to just dump down. So this is a pretty aggressive trend. It does tap there, so now you got a triple bottom. So let's see if it pushes through. Yep, it does. Gives you a new low. It is going to bounce, it looks like, maybe off of this level. So this could be correct. This wider channel could be correct if it does bounce here. And if that's the case, that would be an interesting thing that you could definitely get some price action on. But I'm going to wrap it up here. And as you can see, I wasn't trading this. So let me actually see. You know what? I said I was going to wrap it up. But let me take a look and see if there was any trades. I didn't really analyze it there because I was doing the rest of the video. It looks like it's mostly first entries off of here. This looks like a tempting, but there's no real setup there because it's too early. You don't really have any second entry shorts. So you can't really take pretty much any trades in here. Unfortunately, there's just no real trade setup there. And so that can happen sometimes. You can get a run where there just isn't a setup and you just have to be patient. And maybe one will set up soon when it comes back towards the EMA or something. Maybe it'll break out of this tighter one and then come up to this edge area and give us a confirmed downtrend line, and then we can get a short. But for now, we're just going to wrap it up here, and we'll be back to do it tomorrow, everybody. See you then.